Parshos Matos Eis Aleph. Interestingly, Moshe Rabeinu and the Nevu'ah have a similar way of giving a Nevu'ah over. It says when the last Makkah was being given against the Egyptians, Moshe Rabeinu said, amar Hashem, so says Hashem, Kachatzois halayla, at approximately midnight, this is going to happen. And similarly, we have lots and lots of examples of the other Nevi'im who said, amar Hashem, Zacharti lo chesed nu'arayich, amar Hashem, Kol b'rama nishma. The many Nevi'im who came after Moshe Rabeinu also said a similar expression. This is what Rashi says on the first pasuk in Parshos Matos, because there Moshe Rabeinu uses a different explanation, a different expression to introduce Hashem's words. In the first pasuk in Parshos Matos, he actually says, Zera asher tziva Hashem. This is the matter which Hashem has commanded. And Rashi says that this is a special expression which only Moshe Rabeinu used, the other Nevi'im never used it. So Mefarshim explain that Moshe Rabeinu was able to say this particular expression when he gave a nevuah of Zera asher tziva Hashem. This is the matter which Hashem has commanded, which is a much clearer expression. If you say amar Hashem, imagine for a moment being a Novi, and just, if you don't mind, shut your eyes just for one moment, being a Novi, and getting an awareness of what it is that Hashem would like to send a message to the Jewish people. The Novi himself is not giving a message from his own brain, from his own mind. He's becoming aware of something which Hashem is showing him, and then he sees it. Sometimes he sees it, possibly sometimes he hears it. I don't know how he gains that awareness, and he gives it over verbally with the expression amar Hashem. So says Hashem, like this. He's describing something that he's seeing, that he's aware of, and he's saying like a parallel to it, and he's clearly describing what it is that he is aware of. amar Hashem. So like this says Hashem. But in this particular case, Moshe Rabeinu, he's saying a much even more like different model. Listen to what he says. Zeh hadavar. This is the matter. Now, we're told that whenever the word zeh is used, it means something that you can point to, something you can three-dimensionally hold. Like hachodesh hazeh lachem, Rosh Chodesh, when Hashem says to Moshe Rabeinu, this month shall be the first month. Hashem pointed out the moon. It was a solid object, which was, when you see the moon like this, then you know it's going to be Rosh Chodesh. Whenever the word zeh is used, it means something very clear, very three-dimensional, very visually aware that people can see and take hold of almost. So zeh hadavar asher tziva Hashem, this is the thing, the three-dimensional thing which Hashem has commanded, means that Moshe Rabeinu has a much clearer awareness and is also able to pass it on in a more clear way than any other Novi was able to do. They were picking up some awareness and saying it, so says Hashem, something like this says Hashem. I'm explaining it the best I can, but Moshe Rabeinu says zeh hadavar, this is the matter that Hashem commanded. So he had a much clearer expression. The Parshos explain that the reason why he was able to do this clarity was because the Shekhinah itself spoke from inside Moshe Rabeinu's throat. Therefore, he was able to do this more than any of the other Nevi'im. But the Zera Shimshon says, can we have a further understanding of what does it mean the Shekhinah spoke from Moshe Rabbeinu's throat? What does this mean that something should happen? So he says, he quotes somebody called Reb Menachem Azariah of Pano, who is quoted in the Sefer called Amudei HaShiva, an Italian Rav from those days, from about, I think, 350 years ago. He says that all the neshamas of the Jewish people was somehow suspended in Adam HaRishon's body. When Adam HaRishon did an original sin and chose to listen to his wife instead of listening to Hashem, and he chose to partake of the food, delight in eating that certain food, every single human being that's ever going to be created from then was also somehow, one of the molecules in Adam HaRishon's body. And every single person was willing to listen to Adam HaRishon's wife and do that, as opposed to remembering that Hashem had asked them not to. And they somehow delighted in that eating and benefited from it. Every single one, when he ate from the Eitz Hadas in the beginning of Sefer Bereshis. Some were the molecules in Adam HaRishon's head, some were in his eyes, some were in his, every different part of his body, and every single one of them agreed to eat from it, and they also benefited from it. The only one who was different and was able to not benefit from it was Moshe Rabeinu, because on some level we understand that he was in Adam HaRishon's throat at the place of his windpipe. Now, as is well known, the windpipe, where you breathe through, can't actually benefit at the same time as the person's eating. It's either or. Either you're eating or you're breathing. One has like an epiglottis which closes up the windpipe every time if a person wants to swallow, because you would never want to swallow through the windpipe, right, and get food stuck in there. So presumably if this was an eating that was a delighted eating, there was no choking on the food at that moment. So Moshe Rabeinu was in the throat, which was the only place, the area of the windpipe, which was the only place which was closed from benefiting from this eating whatsoever. And therefore, he stayed listening to Hashem. He stayed with the clarity of Hashem's request and clarity of, focusing on what Hashem had asked him to do. And that's why the Shekhinah is able to therefore have this speaking through Moshe Rabbeinu's throat himself, because for him this place was still pure, and the message that Hashem wanted to send to him, wished to send to him for himself and for all the Jewish people, was so clear to him. It was a solid speaking with clarity right from, it came all the way through his throat, and therefore he had the clarity and the sense of what Hashem said, which was so clear that when he spoke it does say that he was misnabi. It was him speaking. It wasn't Hashem's voice just emanating from his throat. It was somehow him doing the Nevu'ah, but it was the awareness that he has from Hashem was right in his throat, right in the speaking in his throat. So maybe he just did the last bit of articulating with his tongue, or he just allowed it to happen through him. But he had that massive more awareness of what Hashem wanted, because he hadn't let himself delight in doing something that was wrong. And that wasn't the case for other Nevi'im, but as we learn the Torah that Moshe Rabeinu taught us and we follow his ways, it's a tikkun for us and for everyone to trust in what Hashem teaches. Thank you.